In this video chapter you will learn how to write a project plan that everyone wants to read. What are the key questions that any project plan should address? How to build a project plan step by step. How to write a project plan that everyone wants to read. To construct a successful project plan, you must see it as more than just a tedious and long document. When you consider your project plan to be a crucial component of its success, this document becomes indispensable. The first step in developing an excellent project plan is writing the document in a manner that your coworkers and customers will want to read it. Aside from the style and beautiful fonts, the plan must convey facts about the project that your coworkers and clients need to know. This might include finished products, the project's timetable, the project team's members, the project risks, and changes that might occur. Key questions that any project plan should address. There are several approaches that might be used. Fundamentally, the plan should provide answers to the following 4 key questions. Key question 1. What are the important deliverables? This question pushes you to think about the things you wish to accomplish when you start this project. Furthermore, you may use this question to determine whether you are operating inside scope and whether each step leads to the deliverables. The extent of the project is determined by the answer to this first question, which is of utmost importance. To comprehend what has to be done, you must first determine the project's relative magnitude. Keep in mind that you cannot possibly have all the information you need at this early stage of the project while discussing its beginning. However, you need to know enough regarding the project to classify it as small, medium, and large. The response to this first query serves as a foundation for subsequent inquiries. Key question 2. How will we complete the work before or on time? This issue requires strategic thinking in order to generate or fulfill these significant deliverables on schedule and within budget. If you go further, you could think about the potential changes or dangers that might influence your capacity to achieve these objectives. You may then design strategies to maneuver around these situations while remaining on pace. Whatever the business or project, you must create a project plan that outlines how the project manager, stakeholder, and team will go from point A to point Z. Tools like Gantt charts guarantee that projects are not only completed on time, but also on budget. Key question 3. The project team's composition and the functions each member will play. Now that you know what has to be done, you need to comprehend all of the main participants. There are 2 degrees of project involvement. There are individuals who participate in the planning process and others who participate in the doing phase. The difficult element of project planning is ensuring that the correct individuals are engaged on either side of the project. Using the correct project management software may ensure that the process goes more smoothly. Make a mental note of every executive, functional manager, and other stakeholders who need to be engaged in the planning process to get a sense of who will be participating and what work will be done. Get an intuitive sense of how big the team should be depending on the magnitude of the project at this time. Again, at this point, you must make informed guesses and be aware that they may alter when more information becomes available. This question tackles an important part of every project. Who will you get on board to assist you to accomplish the project? You must understand who your colleagues are, how they function, and what role they will play. The RACI chart may assist you in ensuring that everyone understands their roles throughout the project. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. On my website, projectmanagerik.com, you can get the free templates for your project management needs as well as training based on my 544-page book Project Management for Managers, Program and Project Portfolio Management in Banking. Please see the details below in the description. Key question 4. At what time would the team fulfill milestones, and when will additional team members contribute to or provide input on those deliverables? This question should be answered by your project timeframe. This is where you'll set deadlines for each milestone and designate when the team will meet and talk about progress and updates, as well as who will work on or offer comments on certain deliverables. Make sure whether a deadline has been determined already. People are often hesitant to share this information, which is not to imply that the date has not already been set. You told we would accomplish what? Are you being serious? Is a ringing question for a person that commits the firm to a definite end date. It is vital to know, though, since it will aid in the planning and resource efforts. Key question 5. Are there any constraints? Constraints are defined as everything that either isn't present or must be present. For example, an is not present constraint may be the team responsible for testing the software will not be accessible during the testing period for this project. You understand that you will need to recruit a separate team to complete the testing. A must be present constraint is a deadline which should be fulfilled. For example, at the conclusion of the third quarter, a trade exhibition where the end product has to be shown. You must determine what has to be accomplished to meet this deadline. It is also important to ask what may put your project to a complete standstill. Does it include a vendor who could decide to pursue something different and abandon the project? Is there a set of regulations or legislation in a certain state that might shut down this project promptly? You must answer these questions so as to assess the risks to your project and put measures in place to manage them as they arise. Key question 6. How to determine whether the project is successful. A wise man once uttered, begin with the finish in mind. Put this question to your team: how will we know this project was successful after we have consumed all of the work, energy and resources required to accomplish it? So many teams rush forward without knowing the solution to this issue, only to be bitterly disappointed in the end. Define the success metrics for your project from the beginning. Key question 7. What assumptions were made? We've all heard the expression what occurs when you make assumptions. For example, the limitation concerning the regular testing team mentioned above could have been assumed by someone else. Someone may have agreed to meet on a certain day with the belief that the team will be accessible. It is your obligation as a project manager to identify any preconceptions and react to the truth of each circumstance. How to build a project plan. Compiling a step-by-step project plan. Undergoing a step-by-step method to produce a plan, which is itself a step-by-step process, sounds a little meta. However, it is critical to developing a strong and effective plan. Before you begin planning, examine all you know regarding the team, your company, your resources, and what you're attempting to accomplish. It is critical to have a common understanding between you and your team as planning begins. Step 1. Consider the plan to be the roadmap for your project. As you design the plan, consider the following questions. Where are you going? When will you know the job is finished? Who are the folks who are interested in this map? What landmarks will they encounter along the trip, and what is the estimated distance between them? What challenges may they face? Are there any other roads? This is where you write the overview. The overview is a succinct section that introduces your project that isn't more than a page or two. Write a high-level summary of the project's objectives, deliverables, success indicators, and dependencies. Mention the project's sponsors, their positions, and their titles. Add connections to project dashboards or portals to provide stakeholders with a location to readily check on progress and view the project plan's more in-depth papers. Step 2. Become acquainted with your stakeholders. Learn about the dirty truths of corporate politics, tough personalities, and potential sources of contention that might affect the process of project management. The need of doing a stakeholder analysis is emphasized by Larry W. Smith, PMP, Project Manager of the Software Technology Support Center. Everyone engaged, according to Smith, wants project success, yet failing to fulfill the requirements of just one powerful stakeholder might derail everything. Determine who the project stakeholders are. Recognize their expectations and amount of influence. Determine how you will incorporate peer and stakeholder feedback as the project progresses. All requirements and expectations should be linked to risk response and planning activities. Plan all tactics of project communication meticulously. The importance of communication cannot be overstated. Begin communication with stakeholders as early as possible in the project's life cycle. What exactly are we doing? What is the value to consumers and the company? Why do we believe this is the best solution? Get feedback on all of these responses before putting anything on the team's plan. Step 3. Stop being optimistic and create a timeline. Being highly optimistic is one of the most typical errors that project managers commit when planning. Instead of assuming the best case scenario, analyze potential challenges and how they can affect your project management timetable. Make certain that you complete basic due diligence. Conduct a pre-mortem workshop or a series of one-on-one discussions with important stakeholders and actors. You may create a timetable by inquiring other PMs how long it took them to design comparable initiatives. You may meet with teams you collaborate with to determine the duration of certain tasks. Check the archives for past project schedules in case you possess a project management tool. The project schedule must be graphic and simple to comprehend, demonstrating how each activity contributes to the overall purpose of the project. Take note of the personnel and resources required for each job and subtask, as well as the time each will take and the relationships between them. According to your project management style, you might construct a timetable using Kanban boards, Gantt charts, or shared calendars. Rudimentary Gantt charts are a popular and successful method of depicting the timeline in a manner that everyone can comprehend. Whatever you decide, make sure that the status of your project is always updated on the timetable and that activities are indicated as begun, finished, or lagging behind. After that, communicate. Inform all parties involved of the specifics, because after all, it is better if everyone knows them. Develop a communication strategy that specifies how and when you will communicate updates with stakeholders. The plan will identify the members of the team and important stakeholders of your project. It will also contain their contact details and the timetable of when they get project updates. You may use this section to specify the kind of updates that each stakeholder would want to receive, as well as to arrange meetings and reports. Step 4. Enlist the help of some friends. It is your responsibility as the project manager to complete the project plan. But this isn't about you disappearing into your desk and composing the plan. It is vital to ensure that the main stakeholders are engaged while you design the project plan. Maintain regular contact. You'll discover that they're fantastic resources. You may arrive at wise conclusions in a timely way by lending an ear to your team and discussing ideas together. This form of teamwork results in a stronger strategy and more support for your project as a whole. Step 5. Consider your objectives and scope. Construct a problem statement which expresses in specific words what you're attempting to solve. Then create a hypothesis stating what you believe will happen as a consequence of your project. Next, draw down a description of the project's history as well as any facts or observations that back it. Establish the metrics that can be used to gauge success. They will most likely influence various aspects of your strategy. Ask the team and yourself what you absolutely need versus what is great to have or just unnecessary. By deciding on project scope early on, including what is not in scope, you decrease the possibility of misinterpretation among stakeholders. You are aware of the amount of time to request from those who are assisting with the project. You'll also be able to immediately identify changes in scope. Scope creep is a genuine thing. The goal is to keep scope, time frame, and resources in check so that none of them spirals out of control. Outlining the scope of your project is critical for preventing scope creep. Define the deliverables and objectives of the project. It is equally important to emphasize what is inside the project scope as it is to underline what is beyond it. The scope of a project may vary, but examine the changes in relation to the entire project and revise the project plan once accepted. Credit, look at reports. Step 6. Wrap up the project budget. The authorized budget plan or budget that is time-phased that contains all expenditures by time period should be included in your project plan. Be careful to categorize your budget and make it as realistic as possible. Allow for unplanned and emergency expenses in your budget as well as any extra resources that could be required. Get ready to revise it as soon as an emergency arises or a job becomes more expensive. It is critical to know early on what types of expenditures require executive approval and to prepare in advance to get that permission. Step 6. Plan for surprises. All project plans contain budget, timeline, and scope information. An excellent plan, on the other hand, addresses key questions regarding your project, such as what sorts of expertise are required and who is available, what is your financial situation, decisions, who will offer suggestions and who will make the final decision, communication, who will get project communications, when will they get it and what will be the format, what should the members of the team be on the lookout for, and what is the mechanism for documenting and monitoring risks, reviews, how will you get feedback prior to the deployment of the project, approvals, does anybody else need to approve this, who makes the ultimate decision, timing, did you make sure your work schedule corresponds to the project's timeline, how did you decide on a deadline? Your plan does not need to go into great depth on each of these difficulties, but it should include enough information to allow you to carry out the project efficiently and without surprises. Put together a list of the particular risks that your project could confront and develop a plan for dealing with them. If your organization already has a basic risk management strategy in place, you may not need to replicate it in the project plan given that you emphasize the specific risks that pertain to your project. Converse with your team and other PMs about the issues they experienced and get advice on how to overcome similar hurdles. Step 7. Select your preferred project management flavor. As the PM, you may select between a waterfall and an agile project management method. With tiny, incremental tasks and a process that regularly assesses requirements, plans, and outcomes, an agile approach produces solutions quickly. Resources and time are regarded as fixed in this strategy. If anything must be sacrificed, the project's scope is restricted to just the essential components, for that stage at least. Additional iterations may be introduced later to flesh out the nice-to-haves. A waterfall method is a more conventional, sequential, and linear procedure that progresses the project team by team, stage by stage. In this case, the scope is deemed set, although time and resources are flexible. Step 8. Draft and revise your plan. It's time to develop your project plan once you've answered all of the questions, had all of the talks, and filled the warehouse with sticky notes. Keep it basic, whether in the language you use or in the layout and style. Here is some useful information that should be included in every plan, regardless of format: name of the project, date of delivery for the project, budget, plan objectives, milestones highlighted and projected demonstrable effect, expected start and finish dates for each job, callouts emphasizing the owners of certain tasks, task specifics and notes to explain what should occur, risk alerts and activities that rely on each other to prevent delays. When your project plan is completed, there is usually a triumphant moment when you dance around your office in high spirits. But first, pause for a bit. Request that someone who was not engaged in the authoring review it. Step 9. Divulge the plan and brace for what comes next. Your project plan has been completed and proofread. It's time to notify the individuals that will collaborate with you on the project and the stakeholders that must know. Submit it to the project sponsor for approval. Take advantage of this moment to make any adjustments they desire. Once your project plan has been approved, keep it in a central, readily accessible area and circulate it with the team and stakeholders. Make sure that the budget and schedule are updated on a regular basis so that the project plan always appropriately represents the progress of your project. Any significant modifications to the plan should be made only via the authorized change control and management procedure. Then it's time to have some fun, beginning with a project launch that really gets things ahead. Remember that changes and problems will be met, you simply need to be prepared to deal with them. Whatever occurs, stick to your plan. You will complete your project by concentrating on the plan scope and the laid out procedures. Click on the video card on the right to understand project plan writing tips and checklist. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. On my website, projectmanagerik.com, you can get the free templates for your project management needs, as well as training based on my 544-page book Project Management for Managers. Program and project portfolio management in banking translated into 9 languages and counting. Please see the details below in the description and where to buy my book and what is the best program and project management software, PPM.